Greetings world. We are anonymous.
Imagine if you could clearly recognize when someone is lying.
Saddam Hussein has gone to elaborate lengths, spent enormous sums, taken great risks to build and keep weapons of mass destruction.
Crimes have been committed based on lies, relationships and families have been destroyed, and lives have ended. Were the majority of the people able to spot a liar, it's fair to assume the world would be a different place, and this certainly includes politics. Former CIA officer, Susan Carnicero, has 20 years of experience interviewing, interrogating, and conducting polygraph examinations. She outlines the following methodologies used by the CIA to help recognize deception. When confronted on a serious matter, people can display anxiety even if they've done nothing wrong. It's important to decipher whether a person is merely nervous, or whether they're hiding something. The following 6 keys are employed to spot a liar. Analyze versus speculate. Global reactions. Examples include crossed arms, fidgeting, foot tapping, playing with hair, stuttering, etc. Global reactions can be indicative of lying, but they can also be caused by various other factors. Taking crossed arms as an example, this could mean a person is being closed off and therefore deceptive. However, it could also mean a person is cold, or it could be comfortable for them to stand that way, or it could simply be out of habit. Do not speculate. Analyze whether or not a reaction is in direct response to the question that has been asked. This is done through timing and clusters. Timing. Look for a reaction within the first 5 seconds a question has been asked.
When I ask a question, I want that person to show me a deceptive behavior within the first 5 seconds after I ask that question. If they don't show me a deceptive behavior of the list that I'm going to show you in a minute, and within 5 seconds, they're not lying to me. They're not lying to me. Okay? I need to see or hear one of those behaviors in the first 5 seconds. If I see the first behavior in the first 5 seconds, I don't have to see another behavior for 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 seconds. All right? But I do have to see that first one in the first 5 seconds.
Clusters. Look for more than one reaction throughout the person's response.
I want to see more than one deceptive behavior within that first 5 seconds, or within that answer. So I've got these which are verbals, N's that are nonverbals. I want to see at least 2 or more behaviors for that to be a deceptive answer. Does that make sense? So if I see one, I might not like it. I'm going to pay attention to it, but I really want 2 or more. And then I've got that outlier there, that nonverbal that lies outside of that first 5 seconds. Am I going to count that? What? I am, right, Aaron? I'm going to count. Why am I going to count it? Exactly, because I had one that happened within the first 5 seconds, right? So any behaviors that I keep seeing that fall outside that first 5 seconds before I ask another question is going to be part of my cluster.
Observe the following 2013 testimony to Congress by former Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper. Clapper was asked about mass surveillance, and later admitted to giving a clearly erroneous testimony. With the knowledge since provided by Edward Snowden, it would be more accurate to say he blatantly lied. See if you can spot any of the immediate and ongoing reactions that would indicate deception.
So what I wanted to see is if you could give me a yes or no answer to the question, does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly. There are cases where they could inadvertently, perhaps, collect, but not wittingly.
All right.
Manage your bias. Ignore truthful behavior.
The fake media is trying to silence us, but we will not let them, because the people know the truth.
If someone is asked a question they're comfortable answering, they will most likely give an honest-sounding answer. Both salesmen and politicians provide a good example of this, as both lie on a daily basis until they're comfortable with it. Part of lying entails creating the deception that the liar is a good person. Deceptive people want you to believe they're good folks.
As I was landing on Marine One, I told my staff, I don't think there's a time where I miss my grandfather more, where I'd be more happy to have him here than this day. So we have to tell their stories for them. We have to do our best to uphold in our own lives the values that they were prepared to die for.
By ignoring truthful behavior, you're preventing any bias from clouding your judgment. Managing your bias prevents you from being deceived. Ivanka Trump, by her own admission, is good at this type of deception. Rather than answering uncomfortable questions, she will redirect to her own perceived accomplishments, values, or worth with a pleasant, soft-spoken voice. This can be seen in the following video. Likewise, watchers and news hosts allow themselves to be deceived through their own bias.
Just watch her response to being questioned about what they specifically disagree on.
My father agrees with me on so many issues, and where he doesn't, he knows where I stand. But it's not my administration. Can you give us an example of something that you disagree with him on, and that you think that by speaking up to him, it made him change his position or soften his position? I think most of the impact I have over time, most people will not actually know about.
Oh, well, that's convenient. So we should just give her credit when good stuff happens and then blame others when bad stuff happens. That's not a job description of a political advisor. That's a description of an Old Testament God. And that answer there enables you to project whatever you want onto her based on second-hand rumours and assumptions, which is exactly what Gayle King and her co-hosts then did.
What is it they differ on? And where do you think she is? She is not going to share that information. With me, anyway. She's not sharing that information. But that's between her and her dad. But what do you think? I think about climate change, certainly. I think about gay rights. I think some of the immigration ban. Planned Parenthood. And certainly Planned Parenthood.
Oh, yes, certainly Planned Parenthood as well. Why not?
Recognize evasiveness. Those who testify before Congress are notorious for evading answers, because Congress allows it. It's basically a show being put on for the American people to make it seem as though the government holds the powerful accountable. Signs of evasiveness include exclusionary qualifiers. These are vague answers that require follow-up questions. What are they cutting out? Failure to deny. While a person may not admit to something, they don't deny it either. The following is a clip from the recent testimony to Congress by Gina Haspel, Trump's pick for director of CIA. In 2002, Haspel acted as chief of a CIA black site in which she personally took part in torturing prisoners. After being asked whether she thought the torture techniques were immoral, notice how she not only avoids answering yes to the question, but also fails to deny it.
One question I've not heard you answer is, do you believe that the previous interrogation techniques were immoral?
Senator, I believe that CIA officers to whom you referred...
It's a yes or no answer. Do you believe the previous interrogation techniques were immoral? I'm not asking, do you believe they were legal? I'm asking, do you believe they were immoral?
Senator, I believe that CIA did extraordinary work to prevent another attack on this country, given the legal tools that we were authorized to use.
Please answer yes or no. Do you believe in hindsight that those techniques were immoral?
Senator, what I believe sitting here today is that I support the higher moral standard we have decided to hold ourselves to.
Can you please answer the question?
Senator, I think I've answered the question.
No, you've not. Do you believe the previous techniques, now armed with hindsight, do you believe they were immoral? Yes or no?
Senator, I believe that we should hold ourselves to the moral standard outlined in the Army Field Manual.
Okay, so I understand that you've not answered the question, but I'm going to move on.
Be aware of aggression.
I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never.
Aggression at a question or inquiry can be considered a cause for alarm. We can see an example of this in the following video from October 5, 2007, in which George W. Bush stated that the U.S. government does not torture people. We now know with the release of the torture report that this was a lie. Observe Bush's composure as he feigns offense and outrage at the notion the U.S. government uses torture. Can you also spot any other telltale reactions?
This government does not torture people. You know, we stick to U.S. law and our international obligations.
Convey versus convince. Taking Congress into consideration again, questions are often formulated for yes or no responses. When a question is answered directly in this manner, that response is in the form of information that has been conveyed. However, as we've seen in numerous testimonies before Congress, including Gina Haspel's, direct answers are often avoided. Instead, the individual will try to convince the questioner of something else, such as that they're a good person, or they have good intentions. In Haspel's case, rather than answering yes or no to the question of whether torture is immoral, she instead tried to convince Congress that the CIA did extraordinary work to prevent another attack on this country. Other forms of manipulation used to convince include referral statements. Go-to statements a liar will use repeatedly to convince people they didn't do anything wrong. For example, it's a witch hunt.
It's a witch hunt. It's a total witch hunt. The entire thing has been a witch hunt.
Invoking religion. When a person makes claims such as I swear on a stack of Bibles, or I swear to God.
But it was a mistake. I swear to God, it was a mistake.
Perception qualifiers. Dressing up lie. When people say things like to tell you the truth, honestly, and trust me.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Nonverbal cues.
And it started to rain, Mr. President, when you came to the platform. And it's my prayer that God will bless you, your family, your administration.
Nonverbal cues are similar to cues a person might purposefully give when attempting to be subtle. A liar will give these cues subconsciously. Long pauses before a response can often be acceptable, especially if a person is trying to remember a minute detail. However, a long pause after an obvious question, such as did you kill that guy, or do you think torture is immoral, should raise suspicion.
Do you believe that the previous interrogation techniques were immoral?
This is a nonverbal cue. Other nonverbal cues can involve conflicting answers, such as when a person says yes, but shakes their head no. This means the person is becoming flustered and is unable to get their physical and verbal communications to correspond. Anchor point movements are basically the involuntary movements of the points of the body that are anchored in place, whether to a floor or to a chair. Someone who is lying may shift in their seat or pace. Grooming is yet another nonverbal cue. Rubbing an eyebrow, smoothing back hair, straightening a tie, can all be nonverbal cues to consider if you notice a cluster. It can take years of practice to learn how to spot a liar, and law enforcement agents go through months, or even years of training. However, everyone is instilled with a certain amount of intuition. Utilizing the tips provided can help you to sharpen that intuition, and avoid deception. With an even worse pathological liar in the White House than normal, we need all the help we can get. To read this report in full, and for links to sources, please visit www.anonhq.com. We are anonymous. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.